Conference of Speakers and Heads of African Parliaments demand debt cancellation. House of Representatives moves to investigate a state of refineries in the country. And House amends Section 84, Subsection 8 of the Electoral Act 2022. A very warm welcome to you and your reps. I am Victor Azo. Thank you for joining us. For Africa to fully invest in developing human capital, the continent's debt burden needs to be lifted off her shoulders. Now, this was the focus of discussions at the Conference of Speakers and Heads of African Parliaments recently in Abuja. National Assembly correspondent Lamia Ali reports.
A World Bank report released in October 2021 places debt in sub-Saharan Africa at a record $702 billion, the region's highest in a decade. Servicing these debts limits the channeling of resources to build capacity and develop infrastructure, which is one of the factors that inhibits growth and development.
We have confronted the unfortunate reality that Africa's debt burden, both the fact of the debt and the conditions of servicing, represent a significant inhibitor to progress and full prosperity on the continent.
The impact of COVID-19 and the recent invasion of Ukraine are pushing the continent further down the line.
Unconstitutional change of government is becoming more and more apparent, specifically in the West Africa region. This crisis are layering upon economic shocks and knockoff after the effect of COVID-19. So COVID-19 is making our ability to resist poverty, our ability to be more resilient, that much more difficult. And many young people are now being forced in many ways to see that maybe our democratic systems are not working as they should.
Because the COVID-19 has made us to discover that we were almost lost.
Let's embrace what other African countries are doing and let's learn from them. Let's go to Rwanda.
Women constitute the majority in our society. We cannot afford any development while leaving out the majority of the stakeholders.
The topics addressed at the conference centered on democracy in Africa, food security, financial reforms, effective budgeting, and strengthening capacity of parliaments for effective oversight.
Meanwhile, the House Ad Hoc Committee investigating the state of refineries in the country has requested the Group Managing Director of NNPC Limited to furnish it with details of amount already expended, level of job done, and other details of procurement on the refurbishment of refineries in the country. National Assembly correspondent Dayo Ogunshola reports.
This hearing was a product of the House resolution on 28th of April this year, which is coming at a time queues are resurging in filling stations in Abuja. The committee chairman clearly outlined to the GMD and other stakeholders what the House wants.
Let us know the problems besetting our refineries in order to provide solutions for a sustainable future and for the benefit of all Nigerians.
And the GMD had to respond to more questions.
How much to date has been committed to Port Harcourt Refinery in particular?
Are we changing the entire models or replacing them, or we are just trying to put back to use the way they were when they were constructed?
When you invited us, Mr. Chairman, I saw it as an opportunity to tell Nigerians what we are doing on their behalf, that what people think of this country where things are done without process, without consideration for cost, without consideration for value, is gone. And this your investigation will prove exactly that at the end of the exercise. Mr. Chairman, we're happy to work with you.
While giving assurances of NNPC Limited to provide other details needed, Mele Kyari appealed against panic buying of PMS.
The panic buying means people buying more than what they need. And typically, that's what causes the queues in the fuel station. It's a psychological thing. We have done everything possible to make sure people don't stay too long in the fuel station, but we know this will soon vanish.
The organization is expected to reappear on 3rd of June this year.
And the House of Representatives is on recess, but reconvened for an emergency plenary session to amend Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Act 2022. The amendment is to enable statutory delegates to participate and vote in conventions, congresses, and meetings of their political parties.
A couple of days to the commencement of party primaries preparatory to the 2023 general elections, an omission described as a fundamental error was noticed in the Electoral Act. This exercise by the House of Representatives, as done Tuesday in the Senate, the insertion of statutory delegates into Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Act is to align with the provisions contained in the Constitution of political parties.
Electoral Act number 13/2022, and for related matters, all members recall the bill was committed to the Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, 11 May 2020. The House Leader will move for its consideration.
The only consideration we have before us today is only this section of the law, which has to do with the inclusion of statutory delegates. Nothing more, nothing less.
I rise to second the motion moved by the House Leader that we do adopt this report. I so second.
Statutory delegates, also called automatic delegates, are party members holding elective offices such as the President, Vice President, State Governors, Deputy Governors, National and State Assembly members, as well as National Working Committee members of political parties, among others. The bill was given expeditious consideration as it was read the first, second and third time and subsequently passed. 6 other bills passed first reading. The Deputy Speaker, Ahmed Idris Wasi, said the House is taking steps to intervene in the industrial action by ASUU.
Chairman of Committees of Labour, Education, to expedite action on the resolution of the crisis in the education industry. This will go a long way in helping our citizens.
2 matters of urgent public importance were adopted. The first from Khadija Bukar, calling on relevant agencies to assist victims of last Monday's heavy rainstorm which destroyed properties in Damaturu, Yobe State, and the second from Danjuma Shedi on the need for authorities to address banditry and terrorism in parts of Taraba State.
The flood disaster caused extensive damage, destroyed several properties, 13 people have been left dead, over 52 people injured, and properties worth millions of naira destroyed in different parts of the metropolis.
6 soldiers were killed. This was after bandits had earlier killed a policeman at the checkpoint and other civilians at Tati. And the commander of the 93 Battalion is missing in action.
Plenary has been adjourned to Tuesday, 24th May 2022.
Now, what is the role of the Clerk of the House of Representatives, and how does it differ from those of other clerks in other government offices? We went to the Chairman House Committee on Rules and Business to get an explanation.
The clerk is the person who is in charge of the secretariat of either a committee. In the case of the House, we have every committee of the House has its own clerk. The man or the lady who is in charge of secretariat, he or she takes minutes when the committee is meeting. He or she brings drafts of all resolutions and then for adoption by the committee. Okay. So he or she is in charge of the secretariat of the committee. Now, as House in plenary, we also have clerk of the House, the man who is the head of the secretariat, who takes minutes. He is in charge of all the staff of that are in charge of verbatim reporting, those who take records of all the proceedings. After that, He sits down, he produces the minutes of the sitting. We call it votes. He's in charge of the votes and proceedings of the House in plenary. He's also the one who polish all the bills before they are presented for first reading, second reading in the House. So he is essentially the man in charge of the Secretariat of the House.
And the 2023 election is now months away, with primaries of political parties imminent. What is the mood in the polity and how might that impact the 10th House of Representatives? These are some of the issues we raised with Chief Whip of the House of Representatives, Mohammed Tahir Monguno.
The office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not for pretenders, nor is it for jokers. It is meant for people that have the vision and the mission to leverage on that office and transform the lives of generality of Nigerians. And anybody aspiring to that office is expected to have grassroots support and sympathy, whereby those people that have support and sympathy for him, whether as a group, as an association, or as an individual, will contribute that much and fair for the candidate of their choice to pick the APC nomination and expression of interest form to contest for the presidency. Well, the matter is sub judice, is in court. When the High Court made that decision, the National Assembly appealed against that decision of the High Court so that it will be set aside to allow the executive to delete a law that has been validly passed by the National Assembly will tantamount to executive recklessness. And as National Assembly, we are going to jealously guard and protect the powers that are given to us under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are going to jealously guard and protect. We will not allow any other arm of government to take away those powers. And that is why we appealed against the decision of the High Court so that it can be reversed. The power of lawmaking is clearly and unambiguously vested in the legislature. If there is need for amendment or complete repeal of a law or a provision of the law, that is within the confines of the powers that are given to the National Assembly, not for the executive to do so. There is provision for consensus in the Electoral Act, but it's not a blank check. The National Assembly, in its wisdom, in order to avoid ambiguity and give liberal interpretation to the provision of the Electoral Act as it concerns the issue of consensus, the National Assembly, in its wisdom, went further to define what constitutes consensus for it to be valid in law. So it is not an often-ended situation whereby, as a result of the ambiguity or inherent ambiguity that it contains, powers that be will take advantage of that ambiguity and impose a candidate on generality of the people in the name of consensus. So in order to avoid such ugly scenario of people taking advantage of the ambiguity in the law or the lacuna in the law to define what consensus is according to their whims and caprices, the National Assembly went further to define consensus to mean a situation whereby all the contending parties on their own volition have appended their own signature to that consensus arrangement before it becomes valid in the eyes of the law. Since the advent of democracy in 1999, the capacity of the people coming to the House of Reps has been improving at an geometric progression since 1999 to date, and 2023 cannot be an exception. So I am seeing the House of Reps where people that have attained the pinnacle of their career, people that have excelled in their various professions, will come to the House of Reps with a lot of energy and zeal, commitment to serve their people. And I can also see a House of Reps whereby a lot of youths, with all the youthful exuberance that is associated with it, will come to the House of Reps and give a mix of youthful exuberance plus those that are in the elderly group that they will meet in the House of Reps and give the House of Reps a color of or a mixture of both the exuberance of the youth as well as the elders that are going to properly guide the deliberations of the House.
The lingering strike action by the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASUU continues to generate concerns, with appeals for the lecturers to resume classes. What do ordinary Nigerians make of this situation? You and your reps went to town to find out.
Government have to actually look at the situation, because children cannot continue to be at home all day and all night. Honestly, they really need to sit down as one and look at the issue critically and solve it so that our children can go back to school.
It's very pathetic that a 4-year program, you end up spending like 7-8 years, and when you graduate, the employers are asking you to come with your birth certificate. They need graduates that are 25 years old. So I don't know how possible that is going to be, and it's affecting our students and this generation that is coming behind us.
How can you allow our youth not to be engaged? Even though when they are engaged, they are not getting anything. But we know that if my children are in school, I know they are in school, they will go to lecture in the morning from morning to afternoon before they come back. They are exhausted. But now the full time they are at home. And as a father, I will go to work. I don't know what they are doing at home. If the next neighbor tell me that my son comes to his compound or jump fence and enter his compound to pick something or to misbehave, not because they are really hungry, but because they are youths, they are children, what do you expect?
The students have suffered for so long. You cannot go to the university today and graduate, for the specified period of
time that you are supposed to graduate, 3 or 4 years. You see someone spending 7 years and so on and so forth, or even more. And you see, for us as a nation to progress, the National Assembly is having the responsibility of rescuing the common man.
This week on You and Your Reps, we examine activities of the House Committee on INEC and some major developments in the polity, of course. We engaged a member of the committee, Chinedu Oga, who represents the IKWO Ezza South Federal Constituency of Ebonyi State.
INEC is transparent in what they are doing, and they're able to have so much innovation in technology. And that innovation is allowing the vote by the people to speak, to be counted. So definitely we are expecting a very good 2023 election because of what the INEC chairman have laid on ground and all the committees. And they have been coming with the committees. Almost all the requests have been approved by the committees. And Mr. President is doing his best to make sure they are being funded. And we're able to have a policy in the sense that they are able to fund in time so that all the necessary things we have to put in place so that nothing can be a hindrance to the election. So in that aspect, the committee is perfectly doing well. That was because there is some places there is no network service. So we have to appreciate the network providers. My village before, we have no any network services. But as I speak now, there are already a mass in my village where I come from. So, and I still believe that such a thing have gone far in so many other places. Before 2023, some of these marks and network will be. And definitely there is innovation that they have brought in the sense that where there is no network, they should be able to have a network in all those areas. Anambra was a test run. So it is something that continue improving. So that is what we are expecting by 2023 to be perfect. It's our duty as a committee to review and approve the budget and oversight them. So it's the only place they have in the hitches. It's our duty as a lawmakers to do something about it so that they will have a free election, free and fair election. So the INEC chairman is perfectly doing well. He's carrying everybody along and all the commission along and all the directors in the agencies. And we can see that definitely Nigeria will get it right. It's a welcome development. Because most of those people that are in position, there will be act of intimidation. But now when they resign, their security will withdraw, and so many other things, they will become an independent and ordinary human being. And by then, if you really grounded, and the masses want to elect you, they will elect you as an ordinary person, not because you're a minister or this. So that is it. It's a welcome development, and we appreciate that directive by Mr. President.
Well, it's understandably a busy period for politicians, INEC, and indeed the House Committee on INEC. Ours is to wish them well in the months ahead. And that's been You and Your Reps. Thanks for your time. I am Victor Azu. Join us again, same time next week.